Welcome to Bounce Back Stronger, the podcast that explores ways to find peace and purpose no matter what happens. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting a trailblazer in the skilled trades industry, Jamie McMillan. A little about Jamie. As a female ironworker in a male dominated field, Jamie has faced and overcome numerous challenges. But her journey is not just about breaking gender barriers, it's about shattering stigmas and uncovering the hidden success factors that can help us all build something better. Jamie started her career as an ironworker in 2002 when women made up only 2% of the workforce in Canada and the United States. Through her relentless efforts and passion, she has become a beacon of hope and a catalyst for change. With her initiative, Kick Ass Careers, Jamie travels extensively, delivering engaging presentations and workshops to thousands of students, parents, educators, and employers across North America. Her mission is to open doors and minds to the vast opportunities in skilled trades and technology sectors. Without further ado, let's dive into Jamie's incredible journey. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this.
Maybe let's start off with you sharing a little bit of how you came to the skilled trades and what was it like kind of starting out in this field of ironworking?
Okay, absolutely. It's kind of a little bit of a convoluted story. I won't get into too much of it, but I was one of those bratty kids. I had ADHD. They didn't understand what it was. Women were highly undiagnosed. I was in grade
Mm,
2. I got kicked out of school all the time. I mean, I think I was in 5 schools before I reached high school, just getting passed around, and school was never for me. I did follow in my mom's footsteps and I became a personal support worker for a while. It was one of the shortest programs you could take at the college, and it wasn't fulfilling enough for me. So I went on a convoluted pathway for a while, and it wasn't until I was in my mid 20s that somebody actually told me about the skilled trades being a possibility. And I was at a spot in my life where I didn't know where I was going. I was
mm.
lost. And when I found out that I could join a career that was working with my hands and building things, as somebody with a very creative streak in me and ADHD, it was like, this is perfect. I did good in shop class in school. I love building things. How come nobody told me this was an opportunity? And so I jumped in and I applied for an apprenticeship. They hired me because they thought I was Mr. Jamie McMillan. Thank you for the
Thank you for the multi-name.
yeah, thanks for that, Mom. And so I got hired and I began an apprenticeship, and it was an earn while you learn opportunity. So I got paid to go to school on the job site, and it was mind-blowing for me, and I loved it so much, and I've never looked back.
And were you the only woman there?
I have been the only woman on a job site with up to 400 men. When I first started my apprenticeship, I wasn't the only woman on the job site. There was another girl who was starting her apprenticeship at the same time as me, and we both ended up on the same job. So we did have some support for each other,
Good.
but there was also the dynamic where the men, they liked to pit us against each other.
Yes.
There was
Yes.
drama that occurred, and after a while it kind of hindered our dynamic with each other, but we rebuilt it over time.
That's good. I come from finance. I think that's true. It happens in other areas too, where there's not a lot of us. I also would see that happening, and I think those around us do too. I think it's a bit of an interesting dynamic.
Yep, yep, and it goes both ways. You're right.
I wonder if that's just society to a certain extent, or something like that that forces us to kind of act that way. But it's easier to look at it that way now. I think when you're in it, it's a little hard.
Well, when you're first in it, you're really trying to get the respect from the men. You're the minority,
Hmm.
right? So you're really trying to gain the respect from the men, and so you kind of seek their validation, and you
Yes.
choices that sometimes compromise your own moral values and integrity to try and be liked and accepted and brought into the fold, and sometimes that's detrimental to other relationships and your own well-being.
Yeah. It's hard to be yourself when you're doing that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, you compromise your own ethical qualities, and it's unfortunate, but that's what humans do.
that's true. That's very true. Tell me a little bit about kick-ass careers. I really heard in your talking about your past, no one told me that this was an opportunity. So tell me, maybe that's something that's coming out in kick-ass careers.
Absolutely. It wasn't long before I was on the job site that I really started to recognized this was a really great opportunity for a lot of people. And I remember thinking back to high school and thinking, well, I was really good in shop class and so were other girls, and nobody told us. I remember guys talking about going to school to get into the trades, but I really didn't understand what it was. Nobody said it was a good career. It just didn't make sense. And so I started thinking there's got to be other people out there who could benefit from hearing this message. So I was a late bloomer when it comes to technology. So I was like in my early 30s when I got my first computer, and I got my first email address and I gave it to the company. And I guess somehow an organization called Skills Ontario was reaching out to employers looking for females in non-traditional roles that could come out and be mentors at these different events. So I got asked to start going to them. At first, it was just like something to do. But after a while, I started to see, wow, this is really impactful in the lives of young people. And I wanted to expand on that. And so I got involved with them. Next thing you know, I went from being a mentor at a table to a panelist to a keynote speaker. And I thought, well, you know what, maybe I'm just going to turn this into a brand. And some students got together out of high school and helped me come up with the name Kick-Ass Careers. And now some of those very students are on the team.
And if you think about it, you started off with things that you thought of as challenges, right? ADHD, you weren't really into a traditional education, and here you are. You found something that worked really well with you that applied for what your skills were and what you like to do, which is even better. And now you have this company that helps others because I think that's a really hard thing. I think many people struggle with finding a way through the traditional education system. And and then we don't even talk about that you have all of this other opportunity, which is quite lucrative, really.
Yep. And it's sad because they don't talk about it in schools.
They
It's
don't.
on. Parents don't recognize the value of it because you get a lot of parents who are like, I don't want my kid in skilled trades. It's dirty. They see what they see like in Hollywood movies, the guys acting like perverts, or they see the plumber crack, or it just looks really unprofessional
Yeah.
on a media sort of platform. But really at the base of it, it is a lucrative, good career with high paying wages. And for there's so many students that come up to me and they're so devastated because their parents will not accept that they are interested in a skilled trade for a career, and parents don't support it. And they're like, our parents are pushing us to go to college, to university. Parents don't have to give a second mortgage on their home. The kids could make money going to school. And man, once you get into a skilled trade, the advancements are endless because you
Mhm.
go from an apprentice all the way to a company owner, an engineer, an architect. Like the branches that you can go into never end. And that's what parents need to understand. These are good careers for anybody.
Yeah, and you make a really good point about the cost of a college education. I'm just finishing up my last child through school, and yeah, it is unbelievable. And there's no guarantees you're going to have a job. Meanwhile, you can go to school and work at the same time. That's a phenomenal thing.
Yep. Well, I see a lot of people in jobs that they don't love because they weren't informed about the skilled trades, or they did do what their parents wanted and they went and got that college or university degree. Now they can't even get a job. And if they do get a job, nobody hires full time anymore. You don't get your
Hmm.
pension, your benefits, you're on contract work. There's no security in the world anymore. And it's no security that you're going to get the job that you went to school for if you even get good marks.
Hmm.
So it's just this repetitive cycle, and now people are trapped and they don't know what to do. And it's like, hey, look over here. You
Go over here.
know,
What?
and you're
So,
looking for a job after because you have a job.
and so, what do you do in kick-ass careers? You go out to schools. What are the ways that you could educate people on how to get more people involved in skilled trades and also change perception?
I think early childhood education is a big start. So
Yeah.
I get invited to go out to a lot of different skilled trades events and fairs and conferences. But one of the things I really like is that I work a lot with the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, and I've been asked to do this in different places in Canada and the US too. And I just go into schools and I talk to kids, but I talk to kids from the perspective of somebody that is in the trades. And I
Mm,
don't just speak to the greatness of the trades. I talk about the problems that are in the trades and how we need the next generation of people to realize that these are great careers, that we can't function as a society without people that are building our infrastructure, putting those roofs on our head, building the structures that we work in. We do a lot for the economy. And I just want people to be aware of it. So I want to go into schools and say to little kids, like, when you were driving here this morning in the bus or in the back seat of your parents' car, did you think about who built the road, or what person is in charge of building that building or that bridge? Or do they think of that? Because they know carpenter, plumber, they know firefighter and police officer. They have no idea what an iron worker is. They're like, do you iron clothes?
like, where's the disconnect? Because kids love to play with Tonka trucks and all of that stuff. And it's funny, we have construction going on at a big hotel near us, and you can see people watching them all the time. They're fascinated. Where did that disconnect happen between, I think it's really cool, to I don't want to do that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
So I think there's a lot of psychology behind it. Now,
Yeah.
when you back way back in time when women and men had, I mean, the man was the provider. He went out, he did the hunting, but the woman stayed home, took care of the farm, cooked the meals, took care of the kids, had to do whatever had to be done. And other than the man going away to hunt with all the guys, they shared a lot of the roles when
Yeah.
they were together, and women did the tough work. But I think what happened, and this is interesting, I read an article that a friend of mine wrote about this. Then the wars came, and the men
Mm,
left to go and be in the wars, and the women took over in the factories and ran
right.
everything. But by the time the men came back from the wars, they were now suffering with PTSD and trauma. They were going to escapism. Some of them came back severely altered, and their emotional intelligence had severely been compromised. And they came back with some of them with a different attitude, and they kicked the women out of the mills. But this is around the same time that Hollywood started with the Betty Crocker and the Housewives.
Mm,
They kind of did that to us. They put us in this role and made us look like these subservient housewives. And then the men took on these roles coming back from war, and they kind of had that struggle of embedding those qualities into their children. The children
those
had to,
values. Yeah.
and then it became a male dominated, sort of misogynistic culture in the trades, and the women got sat at home, and we haven't fixed that yet.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It really does. And you see Rosie the Riveter posters, right? And why was it okay to, to have them in the factories and so forth, and making sure that we had what we needed for war, but then it was okay to kick them back out. And I think we're still struggling in work today. I mean, I think work in general is a little bit more 50-50, but we're still struggling with getting a fair share. I won't talk about the presidential election, but we're still struggling to get a woman in the White House. Yeah. Maybe can you share some memorable experiences, maybe from some of your presentations, or some of the stories about how your message has impacted people that have listened, and what has happened to them?
I have so many great stories, and I've been really blessed. I mean, the struggle is real. It's always up and down challenges, but you have to see the positives in it. And I've had so many great experiences, and it's changed me as a human on so many levels. But getting into the advocacy space and being able to be that real, authentic voice, because you see a lot of times where they send
Mm.
in that has zero connection to the industry, but they're a spokesperson for the industry. And kids, they're perceptive, man. They see bull crap, and they're like, they call you out on it.
Yeah.
And the greatest thing was is that I can go in and talk to the kids with an authentic voice, but I don't sugarcoat it. I don't sugarcoat it and say, oh, this is going to be the greatest career and you're going to go into this, and I tell them the reality. This is a tough career, but if you don't take the steps to make it a better place, if you don't put yourself in that position, we're never going to get there. So here's the good, the bad, the ugly, and how to overcome the challenges and barriers and smile in the face of adversity and prove them wrong. And that's what I tell kids from a real perspective. I also am not shy to talk about my vulnerabilities and the mistakes I made, but I also talk about this is kind of a superpower when you have things like ADHD and autism and you struggle. Hey, try a skilled trade because man, it turns your disability into that superpower, right?
That's awesome.
So that's what I tell kids. And because I say it in such a vulnerable way, I think they really gravitate to the message. And because of it, I have kids that have later come up to me and said, you really impacted me. And now I want to be part of your effort. And that's how I started growing a team. And now some of my team members are some of those students that I met in schools or that see me online and said, you inspired me or you provided mentorship for me. And I never met this person before, but just following or hearing the message or seeing a YouTube video. So there's so many stories that I can't even, like, I could tell you them all day.
And you're improving the long-term livelihood for so many women that otherwise you don't know how to question. You know something's off, but you don't know how to question it. You don't know how to get there. And it's so helpful to have somebody to model.
Well, yeah, sometimes they're not getting the validation from the teachers or from the people they look up to in their life, like their parents or something. Sometimes they don't have that. And we're so busy with life that some parents are just so disconnected. They can't spend the quality time with their kids that they once
Mm.
upon a time could. You have to work 3 jobs now to take care of your family. Fathers and mothers are not seeing each other. Like it's just there's this perpetual cycle of grossness going on in the world. And so being able to be an authentic voice and come to the table and say, hey, I deal with struggles and challenges, and this really changed my life for the better, and it can do the same thing for you. It's offering hope
Mhm.
to an otherwise hopeless population. And I really hope that it helps impact the world in a better way by focusing on the younger kids, because the
Mhm.
younger kids are the ones that need to know this message now so they can change the future.
Especially with education becoming so expensive and with advents of artificial intelligence and other things questionable as to how it's going to be impactful going forward. And we have a lot of colleges and educational institutions kind of fading away too. So, and you're always going to need somebody to build a building and the roads and take care of the infrastructure. So it's a really solid career.
It is. I think that it's imperative that they maintain those skilled trades and technologies in early childhood education all the way through school. Like practical life skills should be a part
Oh,
of
I agree with that.
our education system. Like compulsory credit should be construction and auto mechanics. Everybody should know how to do the basics to maintain a vehicle. Like, I mean, look at the road rage states we see because somebody doesn't know how to push their car to the side of the road in rush hour traffic or don't know how to change their own flat tire. So, there's so many things that we don't think of.
So, what should I have asked, or what do you want to share with listeners?
Well, how about I tell you about some of the lessons I've learned along the way? Because
That would
these
be
are
great.
that I've struggled up and down with my own journey and getting into the trades. Although it was one of the most amazing, epic things in my life, it also came with a unique set of challenges and barriers that I had to navigate. When you look back, you start to see the mistakes you made. I didn't understand a lot of things about ADHD and autism at the time, but I struggle from ADHD really bad. I'm high spectrum. What I wish I knew going into the trades was that I was going to be in some toxic working environments, like everybody in every working environment. But the difference between the trades and a different type of environment where you're working under an HR department or you have different types of security and support, the trades can be very difficult because we don't have the same internal support and we can get laid off very easily. The biggest lesson I've learned in the trades is that because I have really high spectrum ADHD, I also suffer with something called rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Never knew what that was before, but people with ADHD, well, most of us will struggle a lot with that. We don't understand it. We have a shame-based diagnosis. So when people say things, we take it personally. And if we don't know how to maintain our emotions, we don't have the emotional maturity or self-awareness, sometimes we'll take things really personally and lash out or make uneducated or uninformed decisions about the way we react. And I've learned that I need to be more self aware And if I want to make it in the industry, I had to learn how to give myself healthy boundaries because, as we were saying in the beginning, there was times when I compromised my own ethics and standards to fit in. And I made mistakes and I partook in conversations that I shouldn't have. And I hurt people. And now I look back and I lashed out and I got myself into trouble and I isolated myself from people. And I wish I could go back and fix it all. And for me, I want to make sure that I inform people of what I've learned about how I have to get the therapy and I have to be self-aware and I have to do the work to fix my own level of emotional intelligence and my reactions to how people behave. And really, at the end of the day, understand that if that's how they feel, that's on them. That's a reflection of who they are, not a reflection of who I have to be or what I have to tolerate. So I want people to know that you really have to dig deep to fix yourself, and it's hard to
Mm.
admit that you have problems because we all want to think we're perfect. But when you can do that, your life starts to open up doors and opportunities that you would otherwise never think possible. And that's where I'm at now.
I always get the message, get out of your own way. Like I do a daily Oracle card and I always get that card, get out of your own way, Donna. And it's so funny, but it's true. And a lot of that has to do with the type of introspection and guidance you get from a therapist. So that's really, really helpful.
Yes. Well, I've had a bit of therapy, maybe you can tell.
Me too.
And at the end of the day, I think we're just all here on this planet trying to get by. So why not get by taking care of each other and turning this world around? We got to stop being about me, and start being about we.
That's right. I agree. I agree. Well, it's been so good to talk to you, Jamie. I learned so much, and I hope it's very helpful to listeners. Is there a place that we should visit to learn more about you?
Well, absolutely. So I'm the founder of kickasscareers.ca. So we're based out of Canada, but we operate in Canada and the United States because my business partner is Pat and she lives down in Los Angeles. So we're very much about mentoring and going into schools and doing promotional stuff. We have our own kids coloring books to promote the skilled trades. We offer co-branding opportunities. So that's my kids or student program. But I also have madeinthetrade.com where I do a lot of professional speaking and talking about workplace detox and emotional intelligence and how to recruit kids and how to change the workplace to make it inviting for the next generation to actually want to be in it. Because if we want to change the world, we're going to have to understand those kids that are growing up in this environment, they ain't putting up with the same crap that we had to put up with. They have defiant personality disorder. And if you want to fix that, then you got to be the positive change we need to see in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. I see that. Well, thank you so, so much. I really appreciate you being with me today, and I look forward to watching you and the kick-ass careers thrive. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity to have this conversation.
That's all for today. To learn more about Jamie and kick-ass careers, those links will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. If it was, please subscribe, drop a review, or share it with your friends and family. That's the best way to get it in the hands of those who may benefit. And if my daughters, Sienna and Sylvia, are listening, I want you to know how proud I am of you, and I love you so, so much. Bye now.